Hey everyone, my name is Max and this is the Harley Benton Fusion T detailed review part 2. I assume you have already watched the first part of this video. If you haven't, there's a link for you there, maybe it makes sense to watch that one first. Anyway, in this video I'll give you even more facts, more measurements and more details about this guitar and answer your questions you left for me in the comments under the first part of this video. And I'll also give you my personal opinion about this instrument and things like what would I change in it if I was you, and what would I change in it for myself personally. Alright, let's get right to it. Let's begin with penalty points. Fusion T has received 2 penalty points, which is actually really good compared to other guitars I reviewed until now, as you can see in the list over there. But what does that mean exactly? As I mentioned before, the score doesn't really make this particular guitar any better or worse than any other guitar on the list. It just tells us that probably we're getting pretty much what we expect, the lower the score is. Fusion T could actually get one more penalty point for the bridge being slightly offset. Remember those string through body holes? Yeah, that one. But that's debatable, we'll talk about that a little later. What is interesting though, is that a guitar with a fixed bridge, the Fusion T, has received less penalty points than any other guitar on the list, all of which have a tremolo. And that makes perfect sense because the simpler the guitar is, the less variables it has, the less uncertainties, the less things that can go wrong, and therefore these guitars get better score. I think the more guitars with a fixed bridge will go through my hands, the better we will see this tendency. Okay, now speaking of the bridge being slightly offset, I didn't give this guitar a penalty point for that because I assumed it was something rare that only existed on my guitar and maybe a few more, and turns out I was right. Thanks to you people who commented under the first video and on Facebook, we now know that this condition is indeed very rare, and I can imagine that it only exists on a few early guitars from the first batch, and the problem must have been fixed by now. So if you buy a new Fusion T guitar today, your bridge is going to be fine. Chances that it's going to be offset are extremely low. Some of you have mentioned the pickup switch, which is placed very inconveniently. I mean, every time you want to go from the bridge to the neck, it is very hard to do without hitting the volume knob. And even though this is kind of traditional solution for a tele, I don't think it's good. But there has been an update and the switch has been moved to a new place, as you can see at the picture that Mr. Harley Benton sent me this morning. All new guitars, which are already in stock, will have the switch angled, which should make it much more comfortable than this. In the first part of this video, I said that the body of this guitar is made of mahogany, and it was brought to my attention that the website mentions Sapele as the tone wood for the body, and that is absolutely right. It's just that there is a significant amount of confusion between the two in the guitar community, and Sapele guitars are often sold as mahogany guitars, which is actually wrong because these two are different tone woods, as you can see here in the wood database. They have different specs, with Sapele being heavier than mahogany, 42 versus 37. It is also hotter, 1.4K versus 900. These two have slightly different tonal characteristics, and most importantly, the price, with Sapele being cheaper than mahogany. So, good catch here, thank you. Okay, let's get to more facts that I promised you early in this video. The total length of this guitar is slightly less than 99 centimeters or 3 feet 3 inches, which is actually shorter than the Harley Benton Fusion 2. The locking tuners on Fusion T are exactly the same as on Harley Benton Fusion 2, made by Hanchan in Korea, with of course the same gear ratio, but let's count it anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, that's 18 to 1. Let's talk about the most controversial part of this guitar, the pickups. Fusion T comes with Roswell LAF pickups, and in the previous video I called them the weakest part of this instrument for a reason, and this time I have numbers to prove that. Roswell Pickups website is finally up and running after a long downtime period in the beginning of this year, so we can actually go there and check the specs. Here they are, LAFB for the bridge and LAFN for the neck, both with Alnico 5 magnets, and here's the resistance, 8.4K and 8.3K, and look at the output power, 180 and 170 something. Now if we compare it to the HAF pickups, which you can find in Fusion 2 guitars, you'll see that they have much stronger output power, 270 and 260 correspondingly for the neck pickup, while using exactly the same Alnico 5 magnets and having the same resistance of 8.4K. And there's also a significant difference in the high end between HAFs and LAFs, which corresponds very well with what we've heard in the tests. The detailed description says these pickups were designed to mimic the legendary Les Paul PAF pickups. Well, I don't know how far they are from one another in terms of sound, but I'll tell you what, the pickups we have here on the Fusion T are definitely anything but transparent. They feel pretty compressed, and in the beginning I didn't like them at all. With the time, I kinda got used to them and found my way to deal with them, but still I believe this is not a good combination. These pickups are simply too dark for this body, and Fusion T would really benefit from something like Roswell HAFs, for example. Speaking of which, I have a couple of them in my Fusion 2 guitar, so I'm planning to take them out, put them into this Fusion T and film the part 3 of this review. Yes, there's gonna be the third part of this video that will answer the question, what if the Harley Benton Fusion T came with other pickups? At the same time, write me in the comments to this video what pickups you want me to try with this guitar, and I'll try to make that happen in the part 3. For now, let's just take a few quick measurements and confirm the specs. The neck pickup is standard size and has 49mm between pole pieces, while the bridge pickup is F-spaced and has 53mm. And in terms of resistance, we've got almost 8.5K on the bridge, 4.3 when split, lower 8.2 on the neck, and 4.1 when split. Again, these readings may vary and your guitar will probably have slightly different values. Just in case you've missed that in the first part of the video, whenever coil split is active, outer coils are on, inner coils are off, but you can always check that with a screwdriver. For example, here is the full bridge humbucker, now it's split, now both pickups, outer coils only, now neck pickup, split, and now full neck humbucker. The knobs here are rather easygoing, especially the tone knob, because that's a push-pull, and usually those are not very tight. And the volume knob has a specific sound to it when it turns. I'll probably boost the mic a little bit such as you can hear what's going on. But things like this have a tendency to change from batch to batch, so there's a good chance that your guitar may have different pots. Alright, so this is the part where I tell you what I actually think about this instrument. Well, it's a $399 guitar. Does it feel like a $399 guitar, or does it maybe feel cheaper? In fact, it feels more expensive. I don't know how much more expensive, but definitely as a higher price ranged instrument, because it is a good guitar. It's a nice piece of wood, nicely finished, very smooth roasted maple neck, lock-in tuners, stainless steel frets at $399, seriously? It's just the pickups, they bring it down. Just imagine if it was, let's say, black and coming with, I don't know, EMGs. For $399 or $450, that would be great, right? Next question. If I had to put this guitar somewhere between a Strat and a Les Paul, where would I place it? I would say probably somewhere between the middle mark and a Les Paul, although it doesn't have nearly as much power as a Les Paul. Frequency-wise, it definitely is a dark sounding guitar, but the sound is much weaker than you would normally expect from pickups that look like this. I'll tell you what, let me just play the same riff on a Strat, on a Fusion T, and on a Les Paul kind of guitar, and hear for yourself. Okay, now you tell me, where would you put this guitar on a scale from a Strat to a Les Paul? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of versatility, as it is with these pickups, I wouldn't call the Fusion T an all-rounder. Yeah, you can try to play different styles with this guitar, but I don't think it will shine in many of them. With some different pickups, maybe. With stock pickups, I doubt that. Like, for example, if I had to play a 3-4 hour cover gig with my band, I could probably use Fusion T for 20, maybe 25% of the songs, and for the rest, for the other 75%, it just wouldn't be able to give me the sounds I need. In terms of reliability though, I do trust this guitar. I believe it can survive the whole show, if I choose to use it for the whole show in the first place. With all that being said, I think Fusion T is not everybody's cup of tea, if you will. It does sound good and appropriate in some styles, and some of you guys will totally dig the sound and love it. But at the same time, many of you probably won't. It still is an awesome platform for mods, if that is your idea behind buying this guitar. Speaking of mods, if I was you, I would definitely change the pickups and install something brighter, something better sounding. What else? Well, the string tree, it's hard to tell whether it has any influence on the tuning. It probably doesn't, but if you want the perfection, you can swap it to a Graphtec one. And one more thing, the noise. I would just use one of those string dampers you could see in my noise mechanics video. I'll give you a link to the damper in the description below. And for the rest of the headstock, Velcro as always. That's much better. Now, what would I change in this guitar for myself personally is a completely different story, as always. And with all of the above, my next step would be the strings. Lately I prefer 942 instead of 1046. And then I would install strap lock buttons, such as I can use all my straps with this guitar. I have a rule, never play a guitar without strap locks on stage. And I would change the electronics, install a treble bleed circuit for the volume knob and swap this 3-way switch to a super switch or something like this. There are a couple of different modifications, but they basically do the same thing. They allow using 5 different pickup combinations instead of just 3, because there is so much more you can get from 2 humbuckers than just 3 sounds. And last but not least, I would install a push-pull here for the volume knob. And there are a couple of different options you could use it for. For example, right now, the same push-pull splits both humbuckers. Having 2 push-pulls would allow splitting them individually. Another option would be to make it choose between outer and inner coils when in the split mode. It's pretty much the same as the 3-way split mod for Harley Benton Fusion 2 that I showed you in one of my previous videos. Altogether, that would dramatically increase the tonal range of this guitar, raising the number of possible combinations from 6 to 15, and at the same time make the Fusion T much more versatile than it is now. And by the way, if you want, we can go through those mods in another video, just let me know in the comments below. One more thing I wanted to talk to you about is the setup, which is really easy to do on this guitar. You only need one Allen wrench for the action and a screwdriver for the scale. Very often you guys ask me if I would recommend a specific guitar to beginners, and yeah, I can totally recommend this guitar to beginners because of this simplicity here. And now the action is set pretty low, and you can see that there is still some room for adjustment here. At the same time, screws don't stick out of the saddles and won't scratch your hand. I would usually set the action higher than this, but now for the sake of experiment I have about 1.5 mm on the first string and about the same on the 6th string, and there's no fret buzz so far, all good. And I think that's pretty much it for now. Stay tuned for the part 3. Wow, you've made it to the end of this video, and I'm very happy about that, because first I can say thanks, and second, not many people make it this far. It would be really great to hear back from you in the comments below, not necessarily about the topic of the video, but just, you know, to say hi, for example. If for some reason you like what I do here on this channel and want to support me, there's Patreon, I'll give you a link to that in the description below, and other than that, subscribe or don't subscribe, whatever you feel like. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video someday soon.